We all have such unique stories. What brought us here? What got
Mm-hmm.
us from the 70s or whatever to today? And here we are still talking about Shaun. I have on my Shaun shirt today.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't know if you can see it. I got the
Mine's a Shaun Squad right
I
here.
got the baseball
Yes.
shirt from his concert, and we all have different
Concert
memorabilia that
shirts.
we,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome to the Shaun Squad Society Podcast with your hosts, myself, Cindy,
Doris.
Dame Madonna.
where we invite you to share in our enthusiasm and reminisce about all things Shaun Cassidy.
From his teen idol days to his recent adventures back on the road again.
Please join us for the stories and memories that connected us to those happy days that helped create the Shaun Squad Society Podcast.
Can you believe it's already been a year that we started this podcast? It was
I know,
last
right?
summer when we came up with the idea.
Yeah, it's been a
And
year.
Wow.
a whole year has gone by. And I was looking today at some of our stats. We have listeners now in Japan,
I know, it's
Germany,
crazy.
Australia, England. We have listeners all across the world. Can you believe it? And
Yay.
I can't, but I'm happy.
I am too. We've had so many new followers, so many new listeners. It's just been an amazing year. I can't believe how great things are going, and I'm looking so forward to doing the second year now. We've come a long way, baby, as they used to say in the
Yeah, we
day.
did.
You've
And more
come
to
a
talk
long
about,
way.
too.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
today I think I'm going to really just talk about me because you know what?
Yeah, what are we going to talk about today?
We call this the Shaun Squad Society Podcast.
Yeah.
But we really never talk about the Shaun Squad Society, which is us and the people out there. So I thought today, I don't know about you guys. When it's your turn to talk, you talk about whatever, but I'm going to talk about me today.
And how
And
did you
how
get to
I,
Shaun Cassidy? How did that happen?
how did
I
this
love Teresa's story.
happen?
I know part of it.
My story. How did I get here?
How did you get to him? How did any of us get to him?
Exactly. And if you look at me, I'm not really the perfect example of a Shaun Cassidy fan. But it all started a long, long time ago. I was a little girl in the 70s, and we grew up in the 70s and kind of a poor household. And it was really like, you remember the TV show Good Times? I
Yes.
don't know if you guys ever watched that
Oh,
show,
yeah.
but they were really kind of poor and they lived in the Chicago and they lived in Chicago in
Mm-hmm.
what they called the housing projects. And that's where we lived because my mom left my father, and that's another whole story. But we left that day, we left with only the clothes we had on our back. And our mother took care of 6 kids and one on the way. And that was the best she could do. So you live in the inner city of Chicago in 1976, 77.
Yeah.
I've got to tell you, there is no Shaun Cassidy to be seen anywhere.
Yeah, you're not in the demographic area for sure.
No, he's nowhere. But
Nowhere
I
to
go
be
to
found.
school one day, and I'm looking. Well, before I even went to school and saw him in Tiger Beat, I saw him on the Hardy Boys, and I
Okay,
was
that was
like,
your first look at him. That was your first
my
spotting Shaun was Hardy Boys.
yep. Because I
Okay.
remember the commercials promoting this new show that was coming on, and I said, "Oh, I used to watch these Hardy Boys on the reruns of the Mickey Mouse Club. I want to see what this is about." And I took one look at him, and I went, just
I
like
know.
that. My
What is
mouth
that?
flew open. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my God, who is this guy?
An
And
OMG
they
moment.
and they said this is Shaun Cassidy, and then I go to school, and he's all over this magazine that I had no clue what it was.
Did you have magazines back then? Like, were you buying teenage magazines yet?
Where I grew up, there were no teen magazines. We had what was called Right On and
Mhm.
Ebony and Jet. Those were our
Mm,
magazines.
okay.
And they didn't really promote teen idols. And you got to understand, back in the mid 70s to the late 70s, there were no African American teen idols except for maybe the Jackson 5.
Yeah, I was going to say Jackson 5, Michael Jackson. Well, it was all the
Yeah,
5 back then, right?
yeah,
In
it
the
was all
70s, it
five
was,
of them. And that's who they were promoting in Right On, Ebony, and Jet. But
yeah.
other than that, we didn't get a lot of different publications. So I go to school and there's this Tiger Beat, and I'm like, wow, what is this? And I'm looking through
What
my
is that?
friends, and there he is, that Shaun
Again,
Cassidy, who
there
I
he is
saw
showing up.
on. I was like, what? How do I get back? So I
Yeah.
go.
He keeps creeping into your life, doesn't he?
He just jumps
Where's
Go
that
right in
face?
in.
Puts that face
Where's
right
it
in front.
coming from?
So I had to buy the magazine in the neighborhood where I went to school. Now I went out of my community to go to high school. I didn't go to high school in my community because I didn't want to. I went
Oh,
to a little all girls public high school in the south side of Chicago by what was then known as Comiskey Park, but where the
Oh,
Sox
yeah.
play on 35th
Right.
Street. I went to high school over there. So in order to get Tiger Beat, I had to buy the magazine over there in the
Mhm.
neighborhood called Bridgeport. For those not from Chicago, Chicago has all these neighborhoods.
Yeah.
They segregate them off in these town little names, and my high school community was called Bridgeport, but I grew up in Bronzeville. So
Oh, okay.
bought my and then we moved to Woodlawn. That's a whole different story. Bought my magazines from Bridgeport, and I got to tell you, it was kind of hard in the summer because you can't go to school in the summer. So I had to go all the way over to Bridgeport to pick up my magazines.
but he was worth it.
He was well worth it. But guess what? Bridgeport in the 70s was more of a segregated community. So, yeah,
Oh,
African Americans were allowed in to go to school, the girls, but once school was over, you go home. You don't hang around, you don't linger.
okay.
It wasn't a good thing. And that's just how it was. So, to go, it was a little tricky to get in and out of Bridgeport in the summer to pick up my magazines, but I did it. And I got to tell you, I plastered every wall with Shaun. Well, you guys heard this before. I had little corners with other people. They kind of got little
With
corners,
Shaun,
but
took it
Shaun
over.
got the big
Yeah.
wall.
Big well. But I'm curious to see what did your mom say about that when she saw that?
Well, Cindy, funny you should ask.
What was her expression? I love to see what her
None,
expression was.
none too thrilled, none too happy was my mother.
I bet.
She was like, she's coming in there with the Jackson 5
Right?
and the Right On magazine, and she's like, "What's wrong with this?" And I'm like, "There's no Shaun Cassidy in there anywhere." In fact, in my whole community, there was no Shaun Cassidy. I'm just saying. So
Yeah, what about
one day I'm at
Motown people?
school.
Like,
Well, they were older. If you know that music, that sound went to people more in their 20s, and that was
oh,
a
okay.
different demographic. You had the Temps and the Tops and the Miracles and all of that, and they
Yeah.
were promoted in those magazines, but not to 12, 13, 15-year-old girls. They were
No.
to
But I
an
love
older
Motown.
demographic.
Diana Ross, all
Hmm.
that group was in Motown.
Yeah, we all loved to dance to it, but they were not selling Marvin Gaye to the little girls. They
Right?
were selling them to the older people. So
Yeah.
here we were. Mama wasn't happy that Shaun was plastered all over the bedroom wall. And I got my Tiger Beat. I'm sorry, I got my Hardy Boys fan club membership.
That's the first
You
thing
know, the
you
minute it
bought was a
came
Hardy
out,
Boys membership?
I scraped and I saved every dime I got, and I got the Hardy Boys fan club membership, and it came, and I was so excited. I put the two little picture wallet size pictures in my
Mm-hmm.
wallet, which I still have to this day. The
I
wallet
know, isn't
with
that
the
cool?
membership card and the little pictures in it.
I think I have the
But
little pictures. I can't find my card, but I will. It's got to be somewhere.
well, one day I'm at school. I like to say I was 16 and still in school. My mother didn't know what to do with my Hardy Boy stuff, so she
Yeah.
threw it all away.
Yeah.
Oh.
She
Oh boy.
tossed every bit of it
Uh-oh.
except what I had in my wallet, in my purse at school with me that day.
Okay.
So all of my membership stuff didn't make it, but I think she knew might not want to touch my tiger beats and my posters on the wall. So they were safe, and I
Okay.
still have them to this day.
That's nice.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
how I connected with Shaun. He brought me through a little bit of a rough time with, growing up. We weren't very rich. We were not rich at all in an area that wasn't known for anybody other than African American celebrities, and
Mm-hmm.
and overcoming that and plastering him and making sure I got to the record stores and buying his music. And I even used to call in, Cindy, you'll get a kick out of this. We had a radio station in the city called WLS,
Mm-hmm.
and WLS played all, top 40, but more, popular white music. So I
Mm-hmm.
would call
Right.
into it was called WVOM, which was the black station, and I would
Okay.
request Shaun Cassidy, and they were like, huh, are you kidding? Don't even know who it is.
I can't believe
But
you did
here's,
that.
but they played whoever. But, I have to admit, it just had to do with whatever demographic was selling the music.
Sure.
Because they played Casey and the Sunshine Band on the black stations. They played Daryl Hall and John Oates because they had that
Okay.
blue-eyed soul sound. Shaun was
Mm-hmm.
selling to 12-year-old little white girls, and they didn't
Right.
want to sell.
So WLS took
But,
over that part.
I was
yeah.
10, I think.
But that's my story. That's how I got to find and keep this great love for Shaun Cassidy, because I feel like I fought a hard battle to keep him in our life back in the day, and I want to keep it going to this day.
What about your friends? Did you have any friends that followed him with you?
No.
What about
Well, in high school, I did. I did in school. I had two really good friends, but they were a year behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Their names were Rose and Dora. And Dora and Rose and me were like the Shaun Squad back then. They knew who we
Okay.
were. The whole school knew. And we walked around. Anything Shaun Cassidy, we were all over it. You've heard me mention my best friend Teresa from high school. She was into
Mm-hmm.
Rex Smith and Scott
Oh,
Baio.
okay.
So she would always want to get the Rex Smith and Scott Baio pictures, and I got the Shaun
You
pictures.
got the Shaun. You won.
Yeah. But Rose and Dora were my buddies. They were right there with me with Shaun.
So you had support.
We were the original Shaun Squad.
Right.
So it was a fun time, too.
You found him on your own.
Oh, yeah. I saw him on the Hardy Boys and couldn't believe what I was seeing that day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then
Yeah.
all those girls with all those Tiger Beat magazines, I was like, what is that? And how do I get me one of those?
I know I found him on my own too. I didn't have anybody, because sometimes the girls in the neighborhood will talk about idols and stuff. Nobody was talking about him yet when I came across him. So I found him unexpectedly.
How did you find him, Cindy? Was he walking down the street and you just found him?
I just found him.
Unexpectedly?
He's just hiding around the corner.
Hey.
No, I was watching American Bandstand every Saturday, right? Yeah, so American Bandstand came on. That came on every Saturday, right? So every Saturday
morning.
Soul Train was on too, but American Bandstand, I think I watched both of them. And American Bandstand would showcase new artists too.
Right.
Plenty
Yeah, we
artists.
Yeah.
talked about that. That was
Yeah.
really
We
neat.
did talk about that in an episode before. So American Bandstand was the thing back then to watch. So
Yes, it
okay, I
was.
watched it. It was
If
on a
you had a
Saturday, and
favorite music artist, we were glued to American Bandstand.
yeah, right. So guess what? I was watching it on a Saturday, and he came on.
You're like,
And that's the first time I saw him, but I have to back up my story because that's not really what led me to him. It was, I originally was following the Partridge Family.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was 7 years old, right? I like David Cassidy. I like the Partridge
Who-
Family,
who
but
didn't?
I was too little. You know,
We
I'm thinking 7 years
loved
old.
him.
Yeah. We weren't in that teen idol stage yet, but we watched it and we loved it. So,
Yes.
okay, great. Enjoy it. I buy their records and stuff. And my friends and I would make dances up in the neighborhood with Partridge Family and all that. Okay, that's great. But then I get older, and I think I was in middle school. Yeah, I think I was in 7th grade. And I think I was maybe 12, 13. And I watched American Bandstand, and I'm like, he said, Shaun Cassidy. And I'm like, well, I know David Cassidy. And then I think Dick Clark said, I think he said it was David Cassidy's brother. I think he said that,
They
actually,
used to
when he
always
introduced him.
make sure to introduce them. They would mention, this is David Cassidy's brother.
Yeah. But we don't have a video of it. We're still looking for a video of that episode, which we can't find.
Right.
So I can't really verify it, but it just stopped me in my tracks. And he had on this, I think it was the white pants and the light colored shirt and his blonde hair. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I stopped in my tracks. I'm like, David Cassidy has a brother and he's cute like this?
yes.
I just was like, what?
Where's he been hiding?
I was frozen. I was like, wait a minute. I got to look into this. What's going on here? I didn't know he had a brother. So that's what started it all. And yep, been in love ever since.
But did you go to school and have your Tiger Beat magazine with all your friends? Like swapping pictures?
Well, in middle school, not so many people. But by the time I got to high school, freshman year, yeah. So that's when it started with the magazines. The girls in the neighborhood started being a buzz around the neighborhood. So we had a mall right by our house, and we knew it came out once a month. So we knew the day it would come out. I think it was 75 cents a copy. So we save our money.
Oh, yes.
Okay, tomorrow's the day. We're going to go to the mall and we're going to get this Tiger Beat. But then all of a sudden, another magazine came out called 16. So I had to keep track of which magazines I had to buy because all of a sudden Shaun's on this one and he's on that one, and I couldn't keep track anymore. I was like, whoa, I'm getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a loyal person, so I found Tiger Beat first, so I wasn't gonna buy 16 or Teen Beat. Not me.
Yeah, I did, but not as many as the other ones. I stuck with Tiger Beat, and then if it's 16 had a picture of him I liked, then I would get that one for sure. Or my friends would buy 16 and we would swap pictures.
Right. I had a lot of friends who would give me theirs from 16 and Teen Beat. They would give me their Shaun pictures.
Swap it out. And, we had pen pals back then. I still have a pen pal letter. She sent me a letter about Shaun, and she put these little pictures in there, and it was so cute. And she's like, I made you this doorknob. You could put it on your door and give him a kiss goodnight.
Oh, that's so cool.
My favorite part of your story, Cindy, is your shirts and your boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Every day.
So I get to high school, and I get these Shaun shirts, right? So by high school, freshman year, I'm in a new school, and all I'm doing is wearing Shaun shirts every day.
I love
that.
This.
Wasn't making me many friends, I know, but I didn't care. I was so hooked on Shaun by then. I'm like, I don't care. Yep. Every day I wore a shirt, and I just stayed in my glory with Shaun. And
you had that many Shaun shirts that you could wear
I did.
one five
day she wore
days a week. You had a different shirt.
So the mall had a shop where it sold teen stuff. And
hey, new Shaun one. Hey, that one. I need that one.
We would get new decals in every so often, right? So I would go back there and get another shirt. So I had plenty to go around the block.
And her boyfriend didn't mind. The other kids were making fun, and she found this boyfriend that was okay with it.
I'm wearing all these shirts every day, and this one guy is like, hey, you're having a hard time with these people teasing you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. And he's like, I think Shaun's cool. And I'm like, what'd you just say? What
Yeah.
you're a guy. What are you saying Shaun is cool for? So of course we start talking
Mhm.
and guess what? Then he wants to walk me home from school and you know,
Oh,
he's getting in
what
my
was
good
his name?
graces.
Maybe he's listening today. Let's give him a shout out.
Hey Bob. Hey
Yeah, what's his
Bob.
name?
Yeah. Bob was pretty cool with that
Hey,
back
Bob,
then.
you're cool.
Hey Bob, you're cool. So yeah, became my boyfriend because he had to.
He had to. Once he said
He had
Shaun was
to.
cool with you, that was it.
You knew how to get to you, Cindy.
Right. I didn't have any friends per se, except for the girls that liked Shaun, but Bob was there and yeah, I even have a picture of him that I think we'll post where I knitted Shaun a blanket for his birthday and Bob was standing behind me. He was all for it.
Aw.
So and it
We
helped
need
me
to see
through
that
school.
picture.
Yeah. And
Really?
yeah, he supported me the whole way through Shaun. But of course, when I was in high school too, I had bad panic attacks. And that was another reason why Shaun was important to me back then. I had a very hard time. I almost didn't make it through 7th grade. And Shaun showed up and all of a sudden I had just some strength. I don't know how to describe it, but he gave me something to focus on, basically. And kind of got me through this anxiety stage. Back then, I didn't know what panic attacks were back in the 80s. So it was hard, but for some reason, his support or whatever, I don't know what you call it, but because I had him to focus
Yeah.
on, I became a stronger person for some reason. And through my high school years, I just got better every year. And, by my senior year, I was doing pretty darn good. So I was pretty happy about that. But then I think Shaun married by then. I think Shaun married by then. So
Yeah, right. He got married in, was it 1980 or 79?
yeah,
One
somewhere
of the
around
two.
right when I was graduating high school, and I'm like, well, I'm done with high school, and he moved on, and then I had to move on. So that's kind of where it ended at that
Yeah.
time. We
Yeah.
took a break.
And plus, I think once we got to our senior year of high school, he was still embedded in our hearts, but
Right.
Tiger Beat wasn't flashing them as much, and we weren't buying
Right.
Tiger Beat anyway yet.
And he said he wasn't
18.
recording any more albums either. So we all came to the agreement.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then, that's how Cindy got today her lifelong fandom. But then we have
Yeah.
our little Dame. And Dame, you're so cute and you
Dame's the
don't
youngest
have
of the crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, she's
I was very young when I
baby of
started
the bunch here.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
how did Shaun just manage to land in your little heart?
It was around 1977 or 1978, and I was a very poor little girl, living kind of a hippie life, and I would walk to my bus stop through the woods. It was like a mile to the bus stop, and then a mile to get home after the bus would drop me off. Well, we didn't have TV or electricity, but it was that Shaun face that was electricity. I saw that one time when our teacher was passing out the little scholastic things.
Yeah, I remember those.
And
Yeah, we
yeah, well,
had
I
those.
didn't know anything about him. I just knew that I really hadn't had big crushes or anything like that, but they passed it around and one little girl may have bought a poster first. And I saw that and I couldn't stop looking at it. And I was like, who is that? And I just kept looking and I was just like, okay, I have to find out. I have to buy everything that has his face on it.
It kind of stops you in
And
his
even
tracks, right?
though
Yeah. When you
Oh
see him, it's
my.
like,
Yeah.
even though we didn't have a lot of money, my father was from Hollywood and he didn't live with me, but he would send me letters and he would send me money inside the letters. And where did that money go? It went to Scholastic. Anytime there was
Oh.
a Shaun thing, I had to buy it. There was one time that I didn't even have his dollars. And my friends were the ones that bought, a poster that I didn't get. And they were kind of showing it off on the playground. And I will not forget this. We forget probably 90% of our stories in our life, but when it's our Shaun stories, we don't forget them.
No, we do
And
not.
No,
the
no.
kids were putting this poster down flat, one that I didn't get to buy. And they were all looking at it and they're like, Damien, come over here. Come here. See what we have. And I was like, oh, and I can't believe I did this, but I remember doing it. And I went down and I had to kiss his lips And I think that's the weirdest little story, but to me, that meant something. And so the kids were like,
That meant something.
because they knew I liked them the most out of everybody.
Yeah.
And then another time, which you girls have heard this story, and I wasn't perfectly neat all the time. It's kind of like me. I had clogs everywhere. But they told me they were going to see Shaun in person. I was like, I didn't even know what a concert was. And I was like, well, can you send him a note if I write a note? And
you were going to send a little personal note to Shaun from your
why
friends.
not?
Why not? He'll get it.
He'll get it. He'll call you.
You're exactly right, Doris. I was real gullible.
No,
innocent.
we all
you were
did it.
innocent.
Innocent. We all had belief that would happen. Why not?
Yeah.
I didn't know what a concert was, and I wasn't in the city. I was way out in nowhere in Leggett, California, and where the drive-through tree is. That's where my school was. Well, anyway, I decided, okay, well, can you send him a note? And my friends were like, yeah, we'll give him a note. And you know how kids make fun of each other. Like,
like, sure we will.
Like, okay. So I went to write, I love you. And I thought, no, that's too deep. He won't like that. He'll think that's weird. And so instead I put I thought I wrote sweet, but it was sweat. And so the kids were reading it and they were laughing and showing it to each other. She thinks Shaun is sweat. We're going to give this to him.
Well, he does get a little sweaty.
I was so embarrassed. So yeah, then I was the one with the sweat. But anyway, another memory is I have this little tape up here. It's the Shaun Cassidy, that tape.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I took that tape and I have no idea where I got that tape. No idea. That part of the story I don't remember. But the part of the story I remember is having my little tape recorder. You know those ones we had back then that you hold the
square box ones that you held with a handle and the thing
I was
popped down.
rectangle. It was that long, skinny rectangular one.
Oh, you had that one. Okay, yeah. I remember
that's
those.
the one I had. And that was a big deal because my father probably gave it to me. But anyway, I had the tape too. And I have no idea where I got that tape. But I was listening to that tape and I thought it was so cool. So I took my best friend, and even back then I must have been bossy. This is before I knew I'd be an elementary teacher. And I told her, let's walk around and we're going to dance around and we're going to listen to this tape. And I thought I was so cool. And anyway, I don't know if my friend thought so, but I thought I was.
I'm sure you were. Yeah. Which tape is it? Is it the first album?
Shaun Cassidy.
Yep.
Just that's the only one I had, but it meant so much to me because I didn't have anything. I did have a few things from Scholastic, and like Doris's story, my mom thought it was a little ridiculous. And she's a neat freak. And then I had all this stuff going on. And one day I come home, my Shaun Cassidy stuff's all missing.
So you know how I felt. Yep.
A dagger in the heart. Oh, I feel it for you.
There's no pain like that when you see your stuff.
Yeah, Mom.
And we understand that. Yeah.
There's no pain.
I was so sad. But nowadays I replenished it. But being a poor child, but having a personality that didn't even understand all of that, I made friends easy. And these girls from LA would come to the Redwoods, Northern California, to come home on vacation. Well, I guess that family felt a little sorry for me. So when their kids would grow out of their clothes, I would get the hand-me-downs. Well, these girls obviously had amazing clothes. So one day I come to school with this on.
Nice. I didn't even have that.
Big deal. I mean,
that's part of the Tell what it is because our listeners don't know.
Okay, it's a satin jacket with Shaun Cassidy on the back.
Blue satin jacket.
With his whole face. It's
got palm trees too. What does it say on the back? What does it say?
It's the Hardy Boys.
Oh, the Hardy Boys.
Yes, and I just thought I felt so special. And I wore that to school. But the girls that didn't like me, most of them liked me, but there's always a couple that are like, ew, So I was wearing that and they're like, where did you get that jacket? And I said, well, it was just given to me from a box. Seriously. So they asked, and not only
somebody's mother took her jacket from her.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
So some little girl.
Funny,
she lost it.
Is.
That's fun. That's
but
sad.
This time
in a way,
you were the beneficiary of that little girl's pain.
But at least it didn't get thrown away. It got given to somebody, which is the important part.
Yes. So my mom probably thought that was okay. The reason she got rid of some of my other stuff is she thought I was getting too involved with liking his stuff too much. And he was a rock and roll singer. And so my mom was like, no, you don't need that. Now she's one of his biggest fans.
Oh,
you
great.
know that.
They come to their senses eventually.
Right. Yeah, she just loves Shaun now, and she loves that he's a light to my, life. And now that I explain it to her, she's very sorry that she ever got rid of any of it.
I think when they look back and they really realize how important it was to you, maybe they wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And the innocence of it.
Right.
It was so important to us, but it was the most innocent. And just for them, I'm thinking, I don't know how my mother could have done this to Shirley Partridge, her son, because my mom watched the Partridge Family right along with us, but I don't think she put the connection together that Shirley Jones is Shaun Cassidy's mom.
My mom's learning now.
If I would have said, you just threw away Shirley Partridge's son's stuff, then she probably would have said, yeah, now do it again.
Yeah.
No, she wouldn't.
We don't really get over our first crush. And as I got older, I never forgot my first crush. But it was very nice of him to come back and say, hi, guys, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, you think you came here to see me, I came here to see you.
And I remember thinking one day we're all going to be here again talking about this stuff.
And here we are. But throughout my life, almost every boy I dated had to look a little bit like Shaun or have a lot of hair and it should feather. I said, either Shaun or Michael Landon. I'll marry one or the other that looks like him, at least. I mean, not one or the other, but someone that kind of resembles him. The hair just was gorgeous. Well, I thought, you know what? Someday I'm going to have a manly man that looks like Michael Landon or a pretty boy like Shaun Cassidy.
We all have such unique stories. What brought us here? What got us from the 70s or whatever to today? And here we are still talking about Shaun. I have on my Shaun shirt today.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. I got the
mine's a Shaun Squad right here.
I got the baseball shirt from his concert, and we all have different memorabilia that we. Yeah. I never got rid of any of my albums. I bought them twice because I knew I would play one till you couldn't play it anymore. So I needed a backup.
Organized.
Good idea.
I still have both copies of all the albums, and I have all of that memorabilia, like you said, minus the Hardy Boys fan club that didn't make it.
I know, my magazines didn't make it. I got stuck in a flood. My albums were in a flood. The only thing that survived were all my posters on the wall. So I have those to this day, my posters and some other memorabilia, but I tried to hold on to everything. And I was heartbroken when I couldn't hold on to anything. We'd love to hear other stories, how you got to Shaun.
We welcome all of our listeners to share your story. You've heard ours. Now it's your turn. Your road to Shaun. Send it to us an email at shaunsquadsociety@gmail.com, or you can reach out on our social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. And we're also on YouTube. And make sure to tell us your story. Maybe in our upcoming season, we'll have a full episode dedicated to your story.
Thank you from the bottom of our teen dream hearts. Keep on crushing.
Always believe in magic.
And have a peaceful, Shauntastic week. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and subscribe to our new YouTube page.
Make sure to keep in touch with us at our email, ShaunSquadSociety@gmail.com.
The Shaun Squad Society Podcast, including past, present, and future versions, and its contents are owned and controlled by the Shaun Squad Society. The podcast is written, produced, and recorded at the Borden Studios, and the views and opinions are solely those of the Shaun Squad Society Podcast. We may think we are always right, but we may get things wrong from time to time, so we assume no responsibility for errors of submission of content.